Right, so we've got more boxes to open. Still not quite finished. Well, I say not quite finished. I don't even think I'm halfway through. But so we've got another one of these storage boxes. They're just compartmentalized ones. And this again is one that I've just been throwing things into for close to 2 years. So we need to sort them out. So I'll make a start and then I'll pull together anything that I think that is interesting to see, or things that perhaps I can store in places where we've already got stuff. Right, so that's that one done. I picked out a few bits which were kind of interesting that I'd forgotten about. This I haven't even opened. This is a small electret microphone. I believe it's a Panasonic WM61. I think that's right. Is it Panasonic? It may not be Panasonic. It might be a different make, but it's a WM61, I believe. And it's a nice electric microphone. So that was meant to be part of the SPL meter, but that never happened. We'll get to that eventually. But so that's going to go in the sensors area. We've also got a little microphone sensor there. This is one that's got an amplifier on board. Never really got on very well with that, so I sort of left it. This is a current sense. Does it say on it? Yeah, it does. It's an ACS 712. Now, I bought that hoping that I'd be able to read what the current that my Arduino was drawing. However, it doesn't read low currents. It really reads higher, like amp currents. So that wasn't very useful. So I never really used it. This is an LM35, just on a little breakout board. We've got another one of these little electric microphone with an amplifier on board sensors. That one was a lot better than this one. I've got another LM35, there's a TWP36 there. So those will go in the sensors drawer. And eventually I'll put them all into little bags so I know what they are. But for now, this is more organized than it ever has been. So that is fine. Next up, there are quite a few transistors in here. So we've got some BC548, and we've got a 3904 and some 3906s. So they can go in the little transistors tub, which has got a few more in there that I've pulled out the box. A few more, I say that, there's quite a few there, isn't there? There are quite a few chips in here, some CMOS logic chips. There are some MCP 2307 and 2308. Those are analog to DC, analog to digital converters. And then an awful lot of these logic chips. So this is when I was doing the CMOS series, which I haven't finished. There'll still be more of them. So there's an awful lot there in various guises. So they'll need to go in there and draw. And I'm going to have to categorize them because otherwise they'll be really difficult to sort through. So I'll pop them into little bags. I don't think I've got any anti-static ones, but I trust they'll be fine as long as I don't rustle them around too much. There were some 80 mega chips in here and some 80 tiny. So these ones are the 80 tiny 2313s. So I had two of those. And I think I picked them up because they have, they're the smallest chip that I could find that had serial included. So I think it has two serial lines, but are two UARTs on there. And these ones are 80 mega 328Ps. And I was just using some breadboarding stuff, but I had forgotten they were there. Along with all those ICs were these DIP packages. So DIP packages, the sockets for the DIP packages. So a lot of them in various flavors. So they'll be useful. I had remembered that I had them, but not really knowing what sizes I've got, they don't become very useful until you know. Oh yeah, I forgot, there were some shift registers, some 74HC 595s. There were a couple of displays in there too. This one is a 2.2 TFT SPI display. I seem to remember the colors not working very well with the Adafruit software, so I don't think I used that one. And we've got another 5110 display here as well. along the display front, there was this, this is it 16 by 2 display controller. So it's an I2C for those liquid crystal displays, and it'll work with, you know, the 20 by 4 ones as well. And I sold this onto a project and desoldered it, and now the pins are all completely covered up. Very difficult to remove things like that when it's got through hole. So I'm not sure whether I'll end up using that again. I might give it a go, put some desoldering braid in there and try and get that out. The solder sucker didn't work very well, so that might be done unless I solder wires to it. There were a couple of other bits in there too. So we've got, this is a USB to TTL adapter, and I've forgotten I had that, and I'm not quite sure why I would have bought that one because I have some others. So I might have to investigate it. It does say 3.3 and 5 volts on there. There's no switch there, so I'm assuming it doesn't switch over the RX and TX lines to be 3.3 volts. So this might just be a 5 volt only one. And then this appears to be a DC to DC converter. However, a lot more components on the board here, so I think it might be a step down converter rather than a step up. I'm not sure. I'll have to test that one out. Another interesting thing was these. These are little magnification sort of plastic slides. I'm sure you can see that it is magnifying. I can't remember why I bought these. I think I wanted to do something with LEDs, but I'm not sure. So they're in there as well, so they'll get categorized too. So this is the last one of these storage boxes, I think, that I haven't been through. And I'm not entirely sure what's in this one. I think it was an old project box, really, from a while back. And I sort of just left it. So, I mean, there is a microcontroller in here, which is a bit annoying. I didn't know that was there. And these are some 4051s. We've got some voltage regulators. They look like ASM 1137s. All right, I'll go through these and then I'll pull out anything interesting. Right, so we're done. Out of that box, we got a big old lot of connectors, which I've had to put in this storage box now. Let's just get that one out of the way. There was a servo in there. I'd sort of forgotten about. I've got quite a few of these. They're just the 28BY. Oh no, there it says on the back, 28BYJ48. So they're very common, they're very cheap. Easy to use from an Arduino, just pulsing those pins to turn it. Also had one of these ultrasonics distance sensors, I guess they are. So that will go in the sensors bit, and it's actually got a little bit to hold it onto your robot or whatever it might be. I think that's what it was at the time, but misplaced it, so it never got finished. One of these, which is meant to be for the front of your robot. You drive it with 2 wheels on the back, and this is your front wheel or your back wheel, I guess. So it's a little round ball caster. There was a microcontroller in there, a little bit dusty. So it's just a Funduino, apparently. So it's just an Arduino clone. Forgot about that. I'm not really a big fan of this connector anymore, this Type B connector. So I'll still use it, obviously, but I wonder what's on it. I wonder what I programmed onto that. I've no idea. There are a couple of speakers. So we've got this tiny little speaker here, which is it's probably like a 0.1 watt speaker, and this one, which is a 3 watt 8 ohm speaker. I don't remember what I used them for, or if I ever used them, but they're there. There's another one of these micro SD card reader writers, little module thing. They're really useful if you're just going to be prototyping stuff up. I've done a fair few projects in the past where I've created my own boards that I've put these on. Not the modules themselves, but I put an SD card holder on there. So in order to prototype these things, you need to have one of these external. There are a couple of these which are DC barrel jack connectors. And rather shamefully, I just recently bought a bunch of those because I couldn't find any. So, well, I found one, but I was using it. So it's a bit of a shame. I didn't really need to buy any more, but we've got some more now. I finally found the 16 megahertz crystals. These are the ones that go with the ATmega 328. So that's the one that you generally use. You can use different crystals. It doesn't particularly matter, or you can use the internal crystal on an ATmega 328 to give you 8 megahertz. But pretty slow, I guess. So you might want to use 16 if you wanted to drive anything at a particularly high speed. So I had those. That's what the 33 picofarad capacitors are for, I believe. There was also a regulator. Is that a 7805? Probably is, yeah. It's a 7805 and it's on a massive heatsink. And I must have bought a couple of heatsinks a while back, and they're here. So don't really remember what I was doing that for, but we've got them. There were some of these which were right-angled switches. Let's pull one out. So little right-angled switches, they stand like that. So you push the button from the side. And I used those in a couple of projects and I thought they were really nice. So I picked up lots and then immediately misplaced them. So they'll be going in the button and switches drawer, which is getting pretty full. So it might have to go into a container like that. There were some of these SMD chips. These are 4051s, which I think are analog multiplexer demultiplexers. Is that right? I think it is. I literally have no clue what they were for now. I think it's possible they were to do with the infrared reflectance table, but that doesn't seem quite right now. So I'm not sure, but I've got those and I've never used them. So this is what happens when I buy things. Oftentimes it just gets lost. There's some of these micro USB connectors, and I'm going to be using these. I've got plenty of these cables lying around. I don't think these are redundant anymore, or yet. So I've got some of these and I'll be using them in a project very soon. So I'm glad that I found all of those again. There are also these wireless charging modules. I think these came from Seed Studio. I can't really remember now. It was a long time ago that I used these, probably about 3 years. So I'll have to figure out whether I'm going to put them into a project or not. I just wanted to test them out before. So essentially you have power going in one side, which is likely this side for 12 volts, and then you have this side which looks like it's got an inductor and stuff, so it's probably regulating the voltage down to 5, and you just sort of hover them here and the inductance creates the voltage. We've got quite a few of these ASM 1117 3.3 volt regulators. I think that was for an ESP8266 project, but it's very obvious I've not used them, so obviously I forgot. And then I found a laser diode in here, which is pretty awesome, that I didn't really know I'd had. I remembered buying it a long time ago, but I can't remember what I was going to use it for. I think, you know, diodes are just a bit sexy. Laser diodes are just a bit sexy. In fact, all diodes are sexy. Anyway, let's move on. I'll put these away. Right, we're coming to the rather embarrassing boxes now. These are the ones where I literally just throw stuff in. So, got a bit of paper with a circuit diagram on that can probably go in the bin. God, we've got some diodes in here, some servos, battery holders. What is that, a voltmeter? A small nano bug robot. There's another microcontroller. That is for one of those, there we are. So some of these little displays here. So it's a driver board with a Max, 7219 is it? Yeah, Max 7219 driver. There's a battery floating around in there, that's a bad idea. We've got a little OLED display floating around in the box as well. There's just an awful lot of stuff in here. Look, there's more of these little DC to DC converters and some of these micro USB things. This is one hell of a mess. So I'll go through, sort this out, and if there's anything interesting, I'll show you. Right, so that's all done. We've got a few interesting things out of there. Some of the things I'd forgotten about. There were some of these LEDs. Now I can't remember the package of these. They're quite large. And I've got warm white, and I assume that's sort of a bluish white, clear white. I don't know, what is it, warm white, and then you've got just white, I guess. So there's a couple of those. I'll have to figure out what the package is. I'll see if I can go back a couple of years on my eBay listing, eBay purchase history, and see what they are. I don't even know why I was going to use those, so We'll put those in the LED area, which is getting really big. There were a bunch of these, these are the 8x8 matrices, and there's lots of them. I think I remember not really getting along very well with them. I used one of them for the PiBot, which I'll put in the corner somewhere so you can see what it was. It was a little robot that calculated pi, and it had a screen on it, and I've since taken it to pieces, and that's this one here. So obviously got one of them to work, but I think these are some of the things I'll end up giving away because they're not something I use anymore. And that's because, and I've just found these in here, I made my own display matrix using LEDs, and this one's not populated, but it had an ATmega 328 on it and some 74HC595 shift registers. And that was that. And I made a couple of those, in fact, and I only ever populated one, so I got them from OSH Park. So more things to go in the little PCB tray. I think I'll eventually populate those, I'm just not going to at the moment. Also found this, which I misplaced. So do you remember I was showing you this board in the previous video, the one that didn't really work? Well, this is it populated. Now it does work, sort of. I mean, there's a little bodge resistor there, that's for the, was that for voltage sensing? I can't really recall. But the thing that didn't work was the boost converter. So it would charge the battery, but the boost converter didn't convert it to 5 volts. I'd done something wrong with my layout, I think. So anyway, that was abandoned. But it still works as a microcontroller. If you plug it in via USB, it will still work. And it's no, it's not an ATmega 328P. This is an ATmega 32U4, so has USB comms built in. So I think I'll put that in my old projects box, just so if I ever want to go back and reminisce, I can. There was a little packet here. This is an ATmega 328P, and there's another one in here as well. So I ordered these from AliExpress, and they were pretty cheap. And I was going to use them for a project, and then I think it just got left by the wayside a little bit. But none of this anti-static rubbish. This is what you get. So hopefully they're still fine. I'm sure they will be. They're pretty tolerant these days, aren't they? Interestingly, there was one of these little Bluetooth. Is that an HC05? Let's see. It's a JYMTU. I'm sure it's an HC05 or something like that. A little one of these Bluetooth modules, and I'd forgotten I had that, so I will be using that at some point, I think. I'm pretty sure there are some better ones available these days, so might not be the best one to use, but I've got it, so I might as well use it. Another one of my old projects was in that box. This is an intervalometer for a camera, so it's got an 80 tiny 85 on there. You throw a LiPo battery in there, or whatever your battery would be. It could be anything about 3.3 volts this is running at, or around there. And then you've got an on-off switch and a button to increase the time interval by 1 second. And then you plug a cable into here going to your camera. So that was that. Still very useful. I think I should probably make a board up of that and get it printed and create my own. I found one of these in here, which is a TEA5767. I may be getting the number slightly wrong there. Let's see if it says that on the back. It doesn't, but it is a tiny little FM radio receiver. So it receives your commercial stations. And I'd forgotten about that. This is what's in my little boombox that I made a long time ago. And I must have bought 2, or I was planning to redo it. I can't remember now. So that will have to go into the modules section. There's a little crusty packet here that's never been opened. This is from Tandy, believe it or not. Tandy is still going, I think. But this is a 256K EEPROM, and I've never used it. I think I wanted to get into some EEPROM stuff at some point, but never really got around to it. So that can go into miscellaneous chips, which is underneath the table here. One of these servos that was in there, and I used these for a couple of little projects, but looking at them now, I think I could probably use these again. They're quite fun. Other stuff I found in here was this, a little packet. It's 5 volts TX on the Arduino, 3.3 volts RX on the ESP8266. So I've obviously put up a little package with a voltage divider on one side and a pull up here. So I don't know whether I put the components together ready to do a project and then just never got around to it. That is probably, yeah, it looks like that is the case with some capacitors. So then, again, this is what always happens when I do stuff. There are a few other bits in here that were displays and these little DC to DC converters. Another one of these LCD displays, the Bear thing. In fact, let's see if, whoa, that's weird. No, I've not even opened that. So it's just embarrassing, isn't it, that I've got all this stuff and I'm not even using it. So that's why some of it's going to get given away. The stuff that I definitely won't use is going to get given away. Oh yeah, I'd found these in here. Self-setting silicon. So this is like Sugru, but a cheap version from AliExpress. All right. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm not sure where this came from. This little robot. I've never opened it. It's a Nanobug. So it sort of vibrates along. We might take a look at it at some point, but I've forgotten all about it. Ages 3+, so suits me fine. All right, let's move on.